You ever been there? You're talking to someone, you think there's a real connection, and then just nothing. A sudden, deafening silence. It's this weird, modern way of getting rejected called ghosting. And today, we're going to dig into why it hurts so much. So picture this, it's a super familiar scene, right? You met someone, you had a fantastic time, and you send that text. You know, the hopeful one where you're putting yourself out there a little bit, you're feeling good, just waiting for your phone to buzz. And then you see this. Probably the two most infuriating words in modern communication. Delivered, read. An hour goes by, then a day, and pretty soon that silence, well, that silence becomes the answer. So yeah, this whole experience actually has a name, and researchers have defined it pretty clearly. This isn't just someone being busy or forgetful. We're talking about a deliberate decision to just vanish from a relationship, leaving you with absolutely zero explanation. But why? Why does getting this silent treatment feel so uniquely awful? If you've ever felt that sting, I promise you, you are not being overly dramatic. Let's start by unpacking the very real psychological damage this kind of silence can do. See, when you're ghosted, you're not just dealing with rejection. You're left hanging in this void of not knowing. And that can send you into a total spiral of self-doubt and anxiety. You end up replaying every single interaction, every message, trying to find a clue for what went wrong. A clue that was probably never even there. And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, a simple, hey, I'm not feeling it would be so much better. So what is going on inside our heads that makes this kind of ambiguity just so excruciatingly painful? Well, believe it or not, the answer is hardwired into our biology. So let's get into the incredible science of what social rejection is physically doing to your brain. It turns out that when you say your feelings are hurt, you're being way more literal than you think. Groundbreaking research shows that social pain, that sting of rejection, it actually activates the exact same neural pathways in our brain as physical pain. It is quite literally not just in your head. And here's the proof. I mean, look at this. These are fMRI scans of a brain experiencing social exclusion. See those glowing areas? Those are the parts of the brain that light up like a Christmas tree. And they are the very same regions that fire up when you say, burn your hand on a stove. Your brain really doesn't make a big distinction between a broken heart and a broken bone. This chart breaks it down perfectly. You've got one part of your brain that's like the body's alarm system, screaming, hey, something is wrong. And another part that processes the emotional experience of that pain. And both of them go off whether you get a paper cut or you get left on red. It's all part of an ancient survival mechanism, right? Being kicked out of the tribe meant danger. So our brains learn to treat social rejection as a serious, painful threat. Okay, so we totally get why it hurts. But what about the person on the other end of that phone? What is possibly going on in the mind of someone who ghosts? Let's flip the script and look at the psychology behind the person who just disappears. You know, a lot of the time, ghosting has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's really a reflection of the other person's internal wiring. For example, people with what's called an avoidant attachment style are just really uncomfortable with emotional closeness. So for them, ghosting is this deactivating strategy. It's an escape hatch to get away from the intimacy they see as a threat, all without having to face any uncomfortable feelings. Research also connects ghosting to a pretty intense set of personality traits known as the dark triad. For someone with narcissistic traits, ghosting is a way to avoid any conversation that might challenge their ego. For a Machiavellian type, it's just a cold, calculated move to end something that's no longer useful to them. And for someone with psychopathic traits, well, they just lack the empathy. They genuinely don't care about the pain they're causing. And check this out. While attachment style is definitely a piece of the puzzle, studies show that these dark triad traits are an even stronger predictor of who is likely to ghost. This tells us that for a significant number of ghosters, it's not just about avoiding their own discomfort. It's a behavior that comes from a genuine lack of concern for other people. So knowing the science and the psychology, it's really validating, right? But it doesn't just make the hurt disappear. So for this last part, we're going to build a psychological first aid kit, real, actionable tools to help you heal from this and build up your resilience. First things first, it is so important to put a name to what you're feeling. Ghosting creates something psychologists call ambiguous loss. Because you never get that closure, your brain gets stuck in this loop, constantly searching for answers. And that keeps you from actually grieving and moving on. It keeps the wound open. So tool number 1 comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's a simple 3-step process. First, you catch that automatic negative thought, like, this is all my fault. Then you check it. You challenge it with actual evidence. Is there another explanation, like maybe their avoidant attachment style or their dark triad traits? And finally, you change it to a story that's actually more accurate and a lot kinder to yourself. All right, our second tool is from something called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. And this is all about detachment. You're not trying to argue with the painful thought, you just observe it. You create distance by labeling it, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. Then you can visualize that thought just floating away like a leaf on a stream. And then, most importantly, you bring your focus back to what you value and what you control, reclaiming your power. At the end of the day, all these tools help us take our power back. But it also makes you think about something bigger, right? Ghosting is really a symptom of a culture that often picks easy disconnection over difficult connection. So maybe the best antidote isn't just learning how to cope, but choosing to practice emotional courage ourselves. By communicating with clarity, and most of all, with kindness.